I can say that.
You sure?
Yeah.
Mary, I think we left John off of this list. Wow.
I'm sorry.
Okay, exactly. I'm sorry, John Ross.
That's it. That'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we did now 3 more minutes, but we do actually have a quorum.
We do?
Yeah, there's 4 of the 7 here. So we do expect 2 more. So we could get maybe a few more minutes before, if that's okay, before we start. And because, so you know, because these have to be public meetings, so it's not live, but it will be recorded and posted on the website. So it's Joy.
Hello.
Long time. Oh, my baby. You're like, a long time. You go, or maybe that was
Can we disturb you if I'm careful, or should I sit somewhere else?
No,
Okay, I don't want to disturb you. What you're trying to accomplish. Good, have a good.
you ready to call the order? So it's just quick question.
Yeah. They're working on the agenda.
There'll be more formal at starting today. We did record and we lost Tracy recording. Of this happened, so we had to sit in the room and say people.
Alrighty. We'll go ahead and, this meeting will come to order at 6:02 p.m. Let's do a roll call. Ken Birch.
Here.
Dr. Anisha Hanna.
Here.
Christine Meyer. Joey Dockman.
Here.
Levante Travis.
Here.
Jose Ibarra. I am here. Deborah Younger. And John Bry. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda? Or move on to the next, okay, here we go, already. Any addition or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and approve the agenda for today.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I want to approve the agenda.
Motion by Dr. Hannon. And we got a second by Levante.
Yes.
And we'll go ahead and do a vote. Dr. Hannon.
Yes.
Joy.
Yes.
Levante.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
No.
Okay, great. Alright, so far so good. Let's go ahead and do the approval of minutes of our last meeting. And
Take a minute to review on that's fine.
sure. When anybody's ready, we can make a motion to approve the minutes.
Sure.
Absolutely.
The minutes, just a skeleton of what we talked about last time with the meeting. And, one thing that I wanted to bring to reflect is that when we voted in the last project, and one of my concerns was the fact that we just got done with civil court. And, we haven't had any training. We weren't familiar with the process, in regards to what was going on. And one thing that I mentioned was the fact that I asked that city council approve this project, the last project was going on. And the answer that I received, yes. And I had mayor approve this also. And the AFT, yes. And, basically, and also the city attorney also. And so with that being understood, that's one of the reasons why I would address in the last project. But my concern is that with the size of these projects, and the fact that we haven't really discussed them in regards to, the fact that we just had on the board, I'd like minutes to reflect that.
Okay, we'll make those additions to the minutes.
Or if we can also add the date of that
Okay.
meeting.
We will make those corrections.
If you read off what he said, based on that, we discussing how to moving forward, or please, before we meeting developer. Also, yes.
Pleasure of the board.
I would like to do that.
Yes, I'm okay with that too.
So one of the things as we move forward, we will try to get some dates scheduled so that we can have, we had a hard time trying to pull together this meeting, so we'd like to get something on the calendar that we can do some more in-depth training and also have some more in-depth discussion. And before we get to these, I'm going to spend a few minutes on giving a little background history. We did try to bring in last time Kelvani, who gave the historic background, and Jameson, who helped explain how Tifa worked. But we will provide some additional training, and so we'll reflect the comments added to the minutes and send those back out. Okay.
So let's make a motion to approve of the revised minutes.
And this time we're taking, so we'll be able to get everything out here.
Alright. You made a motion?
Well, how do we vote on the revised minutes?
That's fine.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah, you're correct. We should not vote on them. We'll hold those for the next week.
Okay. Alrighty, so we will have to table the approval of minutes then?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna table the approval of minutes for, our first meeting, to have them approve of the revised revision, or the revision of minutes, for our next meeting. Alrighty, so let's move on to agenda number 6, the review of interlocal agreement for Local Woods 3, new construction, 9%.
Before we start, let me get some background on TIFA's. Okay, a TIF is a tax increment financing. It is the increment that is generated by taxes above what the property was currently yielding. So that increment is typically used to reimburse the developer for eligible costs in this project. The funding is captured over 30 years. The Oakland County Equalization works with us and the developer to determine what that rate is. The reason the Tifa board has to approve, this is a brownfield. We don't have a brownfield authority, but in this instance, these projects happen to fall within an existing TIFA. There are 2 TIFAs areas that are in the city of Pontiac. They go back 20 years. The TIFA board, as a result of emergency management, was dissolved, just let to go by the wayside. Anytime a project comes before us now that is in a TIFA district, the TIFA board has to determine that it can be approved. The reason why is because right now, both of the TIFA areas have debt. The good news is the tax revenue that is being captured by everything in that district is paying the debt. So right now, a few years back, the general fund was actually having to augment what was being generated by the TIF because there wasn't enough real estate taxes being generated and other taxes being generated in those TIFA districts. We have 2 TIFA districts left, 2 and 3. Part of downtown is in District 2, and then 3 is an area around where South and where United Wholesale and all of those projects are. So when a project is approved for brownfield that also is in a TIFA district, the TIFA board has to agree to it as well, because those taxes will not be coming into the TIFA district, they will be going into the project. And that's why the TIFA board has to agree. Okay?
So are you saying that the areas, are you saying that the areas that we have, for the development does not have enough income to cover the debt the city has? That's why we're trying to get the developers.
No, it's the reverse. Okay. Right now, we have enough development going on in both of the TIFA districts that the debt that's 20-some years old is actually going to be retired in 2032. Right now, we have enough revenue coming in to pay back those bonds. So, years past, the city's general fund was also augmenting the collection of tax revenues because there was not enough real estate development happening to retire all the debt. So in 2032, when the bonds expire, then the TIFA would start paying back the city for what the city paid for when the projects couldn't pay. Okay. So now currently we have enough revenue right now that the debt is being retired as it should. The city's not having to augment. However, anytime a project comes that is in a TIFA boundary, we have to get your approval to allow them to use the brownfield TIFA and not put it into the TIFA itself. Okay? So instead of this going into the pool and paying back the debt, this would be exempt, and they use those resources to do the affordable housing development, to make for affordable housing development move forward. Does that answer your question? Okay. So again, not every brownfield would come to the TIFA. Only those that are within the boundaries of the TIFA district. Okay. So in this instance, the process is that the developer does a brownfield plan. The brownfield plan lists out, which I've included in your packages, lists out how much will be captured, what are the eligible costs, what the project is for. Before the project can, after the project does the brownfield plan, City Council has to authorize the Oakland County Brownfield Authority to review the plan. The Brownfield Authority reviews the plan and they come back with a recommendation. When they make that recommendation, I have to bring it back to City Council. City Council has to concur with their recommendation. Once City Council concurs, then the Brownfield Authority takes that to the county commissioners, who also have to approve of the brownfield being issued. So we are at the state now that actually the county commissioners have already voted on this. Typically we would be first, but I couldn't get you together sooner. So what we are doing now is, because it's in a TIFA district, we have to agree to an interlocal agreement. So that means we are agreeing with Oakland County's Brownfield Authority to collect the TIFA taxes and reimburse the developer. Okay. So it's an interlocal agreement between us, the TIFA board, because it's in a TIFA, saying, Oakland County Brownfield Authority, we are allowing you through this interlocal agreement to use those tax revenues to reimburse the developer to do this affordable housing project. Any questions on that? Is that more helpful?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So at that point, why don't you explain your 9% bill?
Okay, thank you, Deborah, that was helpful for me too. So my name is Ian Wiesner, I'm the Senior Vice President of Facilities Advancement for Presbyterian Villages in Michigan. So Presbyterian Villages in Michigan owns and operates the Village of Oakland Woods, which is a property here in Pontiac that we've been operating since the 1980s. It's currently 216 units of affordable senior housing, ages 55 plus. That had been developed over two phases, basically beginning in the 1980s and then again up in the 2000s. So now we are looking to expand that property again. So this is on existing land that PVM already controls on that same campus. As Deborah mentioned, we're going to be talking about two separate but related projects. The first project, kind of referred to as the 9% project, is the project that we intend to finance with 9% local housing tax credits. That project consists of basically two elements. One is 40 units, a 40-unit single-story building that will contain studios for low-income seniors, and it will be designed for folks who need assistance with activities of daily living. So it will be designed with a food program in the building so that people can get meals prepared for them. And we also will have a service agency in the building that can provide other assistance with other activities of daily living, people who need help bathing, cleaning, taking medications, etc. And so it's really, the idea really behind that building is to help folks both from Oakland Woods and from the surrounding community to age in place, have a place here in Pontiac where folks can be and live independently as they need more assistance with activities of daily living as they age. So that's the 40-unit building. There'll be an additional 12 units of what we call cottage-style apartments that will be similar to the existing construction at the Village of Oakland Woods. So multi-unit, single-story building, kind of townhouse-style buildings that will be independent living also for folks 55 and up who can live living independently. So that's the 9% project, and that's, I think, the first one that we are taking up.
And just for additional information, the city is completing a housing needs assessment. One of the highest needs that came out was senior housing. There's very little senior housing in Pontiac proper. There is senior housing surrounding Pontiac, but there is not actually in Pontiac an adequate amount of senior housing. I just add that as information. The housing study is going to be released as soon as I finish making edits, but soon. Okay, so just so you have that background information. So what we're asking the body to do is look at this interlocal agreement, and basically what it is saying is that it's saying what I explained to you, that the Oakland County Brownfield Authority has approved the brownfield for this project, and that it would require us to, the value of the property at the end will be about $2.5 million, which of course that taxable value will be held in abeyance till the end of the 30-year period. So, and I think I've got the wrong one. Okay, I'm looking wrong. So in the 9% redevelopment plan, we're just in fact saying that this will be for a term not to exceed the reimbursement costs, and that we're approving the Oakland County Brownfield Authority taking the taxes it collects and reimbursing the developer for eligible project costs. And I'll give you a minute or two to go through it, but that's the short sum of it.
So this is the area right next to the cargo shop on Updike, and the light, parking,
Yeah.
This was probably constantly behind current development.
So yeah, this area's kind of behind, yeah, well, we'd say kind of behind the current development, like kind of near where that trail is going alongside.
And how much is the capital investment is like 14.5 million?
Yes, that's the only thing.
And the other. And this is a 1 year.
What is 18?
This is the miracle.
Construction one? We might do it
Well, the
before.
It's 4% first and,
18.2 estimate
Okay. Was 18.2. If the city was not to grant agree to the development, would the project happen anyway?
unlike, so first of all, so one thing is that we need, in order to qualify for the 9% credits that we're applying for, we would need to have this agreement in place. Otherwise, we would not qualify under the state housing authority's new guidelines that they're putting out for credits.
One of the things Michigan requires is that the city in some way has skin in the game. That's either through a pilot, where, a payment in lieu of taxes, or we have successfully now, argued with, not argued, but convinced Michigan that using a brownfield TIF is the same as a pilot. Because we are foregoing tax revenue, we the city are foregoing tax revenue for that 30-year period. Heretofore, Michigan only counted pilots. This, just recently, in 2023, they came out with the housing brownfield TIF. So in the past, brownfields was primarily used just for commercial projects. In 2023, the state approved the brownfield TIF. I'm happy and pleased to say that we did one of the first deals using that, so much that Michigan came back and said, "Whoa, Nellie, you've got to change some documents because we hadn't finished figuring this out." But I'm like, "You put it out, I'm using it." So we did our first deal in December. That was with CHN Weaver School. So,
Well, I'm sorry.
go ahead. No,
Can you help me understand, so I can explain the point my name is asking?
sure.
What is the benefit to the city to give a tax break where they're already putting in 18 million or so? And if you should, what is the benefit to the city
Okay.
of this deal?
Of this deal. Several things. First, the affordable housing. Two, the benefit with the income levels that are being benefited. The 18 million is coming from outside resources.
Can you tell me dollars to see that?
Drainage. Well, you have to figure out it's the lost benefit of the housing. In other words, the benefit to us is the goal of affordable housing, and that seniors have somewhere to go.
You're not talking dollars.
In dollars, it's hard to compute what the value is for. If we forego it, where do
We do, so we do economic analyses of our projects, economic impact analysis. And unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me at the moment. I'm happy to share the one that we did do for this project. But when you think about not only the housing, which I think is really the most critical piece, but also there are construction jobs that are generated, not all, but some of which will go to Pontiac residents.
How is it not our residents working on projects around here? I see everybody coming from outside the city, pickup trucks, working throughout the city, but I'm sorry.
But so, and then in addition to that, we will, for this project in particular, it's not only housing, but services will be provided at the building. So there are, so there's employment as well. We have more employment than you would get with like a typical, just straight housing development.
Sure.
Yeah, so from the services as well as from the food provision, so you've got jobs there as well.
and there'd be income tax capture?
And there's income taxes for those folks.
I don't have the direct analysis in dollars.
Again, I'd have to share it. I don't have it here right now. I'd have to share it after the meeting, but
So we're talking typically, and I agree, 16 construction jobs during the peak, and there'll be operating jobs created at the facility to house these individuals. So, and you're correct. My other assignment is workforce development. So, so no, and I agree.
You know, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
No. One of the things that, a couple of things, to get towards that end. You know, the city for the first time is, not for the first time, but it's updating its master plan. One of the things that we included in the master plan was workforce development. Most master plans do not contain workforce development because they're planning documents that are normally about zoning and land use. But we thought it was so important we included it in the master plan. In another hat of mine, I'm funding some areas to do some entities to do pre-apprentice and trade training for Pontiac residents. The Phoenix Center project is going online. I worked with the county to, in fact, put not preferences, that's too high a term, but to make sure that Pontiac residents were able to apply for this job. The issue for us as a community, being candid, is we don't have the trained, ready workforce to go into these jobs. We just have not been successful in getting the workforce ready. So I'm working on that end, you know. Getting OCC is getting ready to put in a construction training program. They're working with us to do that. It'll be a certificate. The trades are actually going to OCC and OCC and OU, both are doing it. The trades are going to actually pay a portion because, frankly, the trades their average population is 50 and above. So for every two, about a third of their population is 50 and above, and 3/4 are 50 and above, and the other is under 50 years old. So you are correct. It is a huge issue that Pontiac residents are not getting these jobs, and I think what we have to do as a community is recognize that and work on developing that. You know, I was in Detroit before here, and it took about 15 years to really build out a workforce development initiative. I can tell you, I was in Detroit. The contractors, there was a 50% set aside for Detroit residents. Well, Detroit has a lot of vacant lots. So what people would do was go buy a vacant lot for $1,500, and you go out on the job site and you look, and I'm like, I don't see any Detroit residents, you know. There are no African Americans here at all. Okay, and if they are, they're laborers. Yeah. So, and then the second thing, there was a 15% penalty if you didn't meet the criteria. So all of the contractors and developers started building the 15% in their bid. So the city was paying the penalty, not knowing it. Okay, we're in a similar situation right now. Not that we don't have the set aside and all, but what I'm saying is we don't have the trained, ready workforce, and so I'm working to build that so that Pontiac residents can get these jobs. Pontiac residents that are in the trades are working. It's the ones who are not in the trades, don't know it's an opportunity, are not working. And so my goal is to fund entities and build that up. And it's going to take some years to do that. I'm getting ready to convene the Workforce Development Advisory Committee to start really putting some teeth to those things. So you are correct. A lot of Pontiac residents are not benefiting right now. I'm working with the council to do a contractor preference program soon. I wear a lot of hats. I'm going to be doing that soon. And some community benefit agreements that will talk about local goods and services coming from Pontiac businesses, jobs coming from Pontiac residents, with the understanding that I can only be so prescriptive if I have other projects right now that have HUD funding. HUD has a thing called Section 4, where it's required And the developers would be calling me begging, Deborah, I want to meet the criteria, help me. I can't get the workforce, help me. So we recognize that's not to say that, you know, some of it is, do people even know that these opportunities are available? So we have to work on those things. And we have to really work on gearing up and getting the workforce trained and ready. You know, we're going to have between the Phoenix Center, the Martin Luther King Bridge, the Woodward Loop coming out, the Pike Street Connector. You're talking, you know, hundreds of thousands in construction jobs, and that's not the only jobs that we should be going after. But these are real things that are happening in our community now. And I've been meeting with Bob Mann, who is the PM for the Phoenix Center project, about getting residents in these programs. So the truth of the matter is, you're correct. Not a lot of Pontiac residents are getting these construction jobs, but we're working to do that. Now, there are some contractors locally who do very well with that, getting them. Some little, like Sherelle and Sherelle, they do very well at hiring Pontiac residents. Max Brenner has a program, he does that. I'm getting ready to flip the script, which will work with returning citizens. CEO just gave a contract to who also works with returning citizens to get them trained. So we're beginning to work on a concerted effort around workforce development.
So, but would it be safe to say that we can't say in dollars what the benefit is to the city by giving the tax?
I think we can say in construction dollars and income tax transfer and permanent jobs, yes, we can say that. Can we say how many of those construction jobs will be funded at residents?
Not the jobs,
Dollars, yeah, we could come up with the analysis about it. And I think I've actually seen it. I just don't want to commit to telling you what it is, but I don't remember.
Yeah, honestly, also, as far as this, in front of the, this is, yeah, the community, who negotiated it? Has it been, as far as the existing residents of the city? That's the main thing.
Right. I did. Mr. did. The funders. So these deals have what I call capital stacks, and there are a lot of capital stacks. Mr. negotiates. You know, Mr. is the major funder, so they call a lot of the shots. They set the criteria. They set the scoring. I.e., you get 4 points if the city's in the deal.
How much is the incremental taxes that the city is for the next 30 years?
About 2.5 million.
Okay, but
Anybody else? Questions?
I do want to make one other comment on governance, workforce development, because so as a nonprofit, we're governed by a board. And then our local communities each have their own boards. And so the Village of Oakland Woods Board, there's a gentleman on our Village of Oakland Woods Board, Carlton Jones, who does workforce development here in Pontiac. So we don't have that direct oversight of the project and that involvement we've already been talking about. You know, we're still a long ways away from starting construction, but he will be involved more with the contractor on the workforce development side when we get there.
Yeah, and Carlton's very active, and he reminds me daily that. Here goes Carlton. Right.
So this is something that might be, because we got years of this, right, you know, out there voting on.
We have a general contractor who we intend to work with, who we just finished working with on a project in Flint, who we'd like to work with again. They're not under contract at this point, but we have one identified who we'd like.
And I think Carlton is going to work with the general to see that subs and other contractor opportunities, not just workforce development, but it's, you know, we want to see that the general also hires subs that could do smaller pieces of the work as well. And that'll be a role that Carlton will play. And I know these are red line because the attorney just made back and forth corrections when if you guys go forward, you would authorize me to go ahead and execute the agreements and clean them up. So this is hot off the last iteration of the changes that were made. Does anybody else have any additional questions?
Okay, well, not this is, I'm probably for the same, 5%, 4%.
So it's related, it's really referring to the low-income housing tax credits. So there's two different types of low-income housing tax credits. A 9% credit, which is essentially, you're getting 90%. Tax credits equal to 9% of the qualified cost. And a 4%, where tax credits equal to 4% of the qualified cost. So there are two different related but different financing mechanisms. So that's really what those numbers are referring to. And so the 9% it's a larger subsidy, it's a bigger tax credit, it's more competitive. 4% is smaller subsidy, less competitive. And MISHA kind of incentivizes us to do both of them, to get have these two projects side by side, because they see that as a more efficient use of their tax credit.
Oh, the other thing is the 9% allows you to have more affordability. So on the 4%, you typically will see higher area median incomes. So on the 9%, you can, like this project is at 40 to 60% area median income. A 4% typically would be at 80%. So you'll see seniors who have more income. This one will be seniors who have little. The 9% of these seniors who have very little income because it's at 40 to 60% of area median income.
And we're pursuing vouchers that allow us to actually to even, more like, even lower income individuals, if we're able to receive these vouchers, we're pursuing through
So that's the difference between the 9 and the 4%. They, MISHA determines how much is going to go into each pot every year of 9%. The 9% typically does much lower income deals, and then the 4% do a little bit higher, still affordable, but higher incomes are allowed in the 4%. This is a housing 101. This is the kind of education that you need, and I'm glad I know enough to.
Yeah,
Okay, great. Last meeting.
Good, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions about the structure or anything?
Okay, I'm sure I know the answer, I'm just double checking. It's the end of 30 years, that's the end.
That's the end.
Okay, there's no renewing, there's no, we sold it to somebody else and it starts all over, that's the end.
The difference between a pilot,
Because that's pilots, because they could
the
sell.
pilots can go on
Yep.
in perpetuity. A brownfield, the 30 years is the 30 years. Whether you sell it, demolish it, whatever, the period is 30 years. The state law does not allow renewal or stretching it out. It is a 30-year abatement, and if it's done. Pilots tend to go on in perpetuity. Okay, so when you sell it, or you need to rehab it or whatever, you continue to get a new pilot. The brownfield it's 30 years, and we've actually, though very few, seen of some that are even less than 30 years. Typically, 30 years is what you need to make the numbers pencil. And quite frankly, given our current environment, I'm worried because I'm starting to see the equity investors shrink quite a bit. And so we may not, equity investors like in the Lytech deal, they put 80, for $1 in investment, they for $1 in tax write-off, they would give you 89 to 94 cents. I'm seeing that go rapidly down given what's going on in our climate now. So people ask me, what am I watching to see what's really going on? That the equity market is my signal as to what is really happening in the marketplace. And we're starting to see those numbers decrease. It's just anecdotally.
You guys anticipate the rating, how
So the rent, it depends a little bit on, there's some variation, but typically, we are we have a regulatory agreement. So so there's two agencies, right? NISHDA, which is the State Housing Authority, and HUD, which is the federal authority. In the case of Oakland Woods, there's a combination. We have regulatory agreements actually with both, so it's a combination. For HUD units, it's actually more advantageous to the residents because when we have a HUD unit, what happens is HUD will look at what's 30% of the person's income, regardless of what their income is. 30% is their contribution. And then HUD will make up the difference between that and what they consider a market rate. So in that case, the residents only pay 30% of their income regardless of what it is. For MISHA, for just the tax credit units that don't have that HUD voucher or similar program on it, MISHA will set the rate. We would have to commit to them. We're going to keep this unit at 60% area median income, 50%, 80%. It varies, and then based on that, MISHA will set what the reasonable rent is based on that, and the resident pays that full. So those are the two different ways that the rents are each.
So yeah, and it's based on the Oakland County area median income. And so MISHA will set the rates based on 60 or 40 or whatever you're agreeing to of what that rent is in the county.
How many of these would be covered?
Well, so that's a little too. We are still pursuing, so we don't know yet. We're pursuing for all 40 units. We can't promise that we're going to get it.
For developers, of course, the HUD is the way to go.
Yeah.
Because it's stable and it's committed. But Oakland County only gets X amount of vouchers per year, and there's project-based, which get committed to a project, and then there's floating, i.e., I've got my voucher and I take it wherever I want to go. So they're going to go after project-based. The Housing Commission has our share of them, and frankly, they have quite a bit that are underutilized. So they would go after those for Oakland for this project. So they could, and of course for the developer, you want the project-based. They will take an individual that has their own certificate, but you have guaranteed income, and that makes your equity investors and others happy. And you know that HUD is paying 70% of that rent.
Yeah, so we have applied. There's another program called the 202 program, which is like their senior housing, and we applied for that for this project. Unfortunately, it's very competitive.
Yes, it is.
11 awards nationally. We weren't one of them, unfortunately.
Right.
How many is it possible to say the percentage of Pontiac residents in the development now? I'm just curious.
Well, so they're all currently Pontiac residents. How many of them were Pontiac residents before? I don't have that information, but I think it's quite a few, to be honest.
When I went out there, I don't want to lie, but it was more than like 60 or 70% were Pontiac residents. Was what I was told.
Many residents have been there for many years.
How many people stay? They don't.
No, and it's a nice development. I mean, I could hang out there.
And we are also investing in existing units as well. So we're pursuing several different sources of financing to make renovations and updates to the current units as well. It's not just
These new products have an effect on current size.
it won't change.
They pretty much can't. Because when the financing dictates the rest. So whatever they finance those old units under still applies. Okay. Now, the area median rents can go up and then accordingly, but it's not going to be as a result of this project. If Oakland County's median income goes up dramatically, then the rents could go up. But then they have to do the benefit analysis. Can their tenants pay it? So, what happens is you get a margin that you say your rents could go up to this, but typically you're not going to do that because then you lose tenants and then the deal doesn't work. So. Anybody else? I'm happy to, I want you to fully understand and we're new, this is new, so we want to, I'll start getting you more information as we go along, because I want you to be very, very comfortable. You know, I'm not asking you just to be a rubber stamp, but you know, I want you to feel comfortable with this. And you know, in all honesty, until I started doing, I've been doing a lot of deals, and still I started doing these, and like, you need a tip report. I'm like, okay, if you say so, yeah. And of course, I don't want my projects to not go forward. You know, you know, while you know, housing is a big economic driver in communities, and you know, a lot of times you stabilize the housing before you can start to bring in, you know, the grocery stores, the Starbucks. And, you know, one of the things that hurts us now is that our incomes are so depressed, and we don't, you know, our population base has only grown a little bit. So at some point, now this deal isn't going to do that, but this deal does allow seniors in our community to stay in place, and that's important as well. This isn't, you know, it's an economic stabilizer. And if you look at most of the senior housing in our community right now, it's old, very old. And so the opportunity for seniors to stay in place is being fulfilled by this project. And we'll get you, you know, in the future, I will get you all the economic impact of any project.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Ian will send it to me, and I'll send it out to you. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So we probably should do this both together.
Okay,
9 and then do 4.
so let's hold on voting until we get to the 4%.
I think we kind of. Does anybody have questions about the 4%? They're pretty much similar.
Yeah.
Just
Kept asking questions, till we got it all figured out.
just so for the 4%, it's really just it's only the cottage style units. It's 34 more of those, similar to the existing development at
Just and and they're the more affluent, and I'm using that, you know, of the seniors, because this goes up to a higher income level. So this may be your person that retired from the GM, you know, that has a little higher income.
And for us, this is for folks who are able to live more independent. You know, that's really Deborah's right when she's saying the way we think about it. These are folks who are probably a little younger than the folks. You know, you can be 55, working, live in these units.
Right.
So it's people who are a little younger and able to live independently would be
Right, because 80% of area median income because we have the county income, you could, like you said, it's a lot of people who work. Teachers who are 55 could qualify for these.
Yes, minimum wage is 55.
minimum age is 55 by MISHA. It's 62 for HUD.
Yeah.
So depending if it's MISHA or HUD, it's 55 or 62.
So yeah, so you can have working people still in these units, and again, when we say affordable, people forget that almost 80% of people who work in City Hall could, you know, fit those income requirements. Teachers, fire truck, you know, all those people, you know.
Housing is working people.
Right.
With decent jobs. It's just
Right.
Oakland County is expensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Alrighty, let's call for a vote. Okay, so we're gonna vote on the approval of the interlocal agreement for Oakland County Woods, new construction, 9% and 4%. Anybody would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Dr. Hannah,
1 second.
second by Joy, for the approval, to vote on the approval of the interlock agreement for Oakland Woods, 9% and 4%. Roll call, Dr. Hannah,
Yes.
Joy Dockham,
Yes.
am I saying that correctly? Levante Travis,
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Ken Birch.
Yes.
Alrighty, we have 5 yes. Oh, John Bryan, my apologies.
Yes.
6 yes.
Really appreciate everyone's support. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The last thing, little staff report I want to give you some more is that as we move forward, right now we're being reactionary. You know, y'all, a lot of you know, I was a staff of one and you heard all those jobs I did. I started this in staff. So, moving forward, I would start, the Tifa board will not just be reacting to deals. There are existing Tifa plans. I'm just fine with them. They need to be updated. We need to think about, as a Tifa board, what it is we want to do. Do we want to do anything? Do we want to look at future development and capturing, the Tifa board could put together a plan that we want to expand, create a new Tifa district. So there are a lot of things, and I'll work on education and all that. But what I want to say to you is that you're not just going to ultimately just be reviewing deals. The Tifa board can develop a Tifa plan. You can do infrastructure, you can support, you could bond, you could do other things. Now with understanding that,
When you say infrastructure,
like roads and
that's what I'm getting.
yeah, or the stuff leading to site,
Sure.
taking utilities to site, all those kind of things too, in lots of communities. And I'm going to share with you some other cities' Tifa plans before we go forward. These are not decisions we have to make today, but I want to let you know that this can be an active, engaged body that can help shape some of the economic development in the city of Pontiac. So you're not just going to be rubber stamping, let me get my legs under me and this board, and I do see you engaged in a broader discussion about what development looks like in the city of Pontiac and how we could use tax capture to incent that. And
Does
so,
that include the master plan, the development of the master plan?
absolutely, we could take strategies out of there and do that. And for instance, one of the things that I've mentioned is we don't have our own brownfield authority. I would like to recreate that brownfield authority right now, and I love them, but Oakland County Brownfield Authority, I've done 7 deals now. They're getting paid. Pontiac, I'm paying them because I don't have one in place. It's not huge money, but over time, it becomes real money. That they're collecting administrative fees, and I'm sorry, the sun is just right in my face right now. So they're collecting administrative fees and other things that, have laid dormant because nobody was doing brownfield deals. And now I am, and I got to go to the county. Plus, it's for the developer. That was 4 additional steps that if we had our own, we wouldn't have had to do all that. So
It's just better for Pontiac residents to be making those decisions.
exactly. So I got the Tifa board. My next thing I'm going to work on is the brownfield authority. And, in some cities, the Tifa and the Brownfield Authority are the same boards. Not saying that you should or shouldn't be, that's a future discussion. But those are the things that I'm working on with one of my many hats.
Do the developers come to us, or do we go to the developers?
Both. Yeah. They would come to us mostly. But when I say that, I'm out churning, So I'm your representative that's churning, looking for developers, and I was telling them, they were going to work on this deal anyway. But one of their consultants I've known for a long time, and he's like, "Dad, you're in Pontiac now, and I've known him like 20 years, and he is a senior and he's working on this project. So I churn deals, and then developers come to me. And all of that.
Just one thing I wanted to throw out, we got the infrastructure, our streets.
I know.
If we can do something, it's like an obstacle course going down most roads within the city. When you start to leave the cities, it gets better. Orchard Bay, and other streets like that, and Woodward, but in the city, we can do something like that.
See, Tifa board, you never know. Okay, so
Alrighty, so with that staff report, thank you for that, Deborah. Polling of directors.
and what we wanted to do is we'd like to get some permanent dates, and then if we don't meet you, we don't meet, but it's difficult. Poor Miriam had
She is a saint.
So, and again, you know, if we don't need you, we'll cancel it. But over time, I think, you know, right now, while I'm still formulating stuff, you're not going to meet as regular. But over time, I do see us starting to pick up and doing, you know, meeting more regular as I start to try to bring the Brownfield Authority back and, you know, doing stuff on our own. Right now, the Tifa is just rolling along. You know, there's some developable land in the Tifa, but we might want to look at expanding or creating a new Tifa, those kind of things. So I do see over time us being more active, but I'd like us to at least get a feeling for what we could do. I will say that Tuesdays are horrible because it's City Council day. So there are other days that staff, that the directors, I'm sorry, could consider that will work for them.
Wednesdays, yeah. Wednesdays, Thursdays, as long as I know in advance, I can get a plan. Yeah.
Right there, yeah.
Like my input, I live stream all the city meetings pretty much.
Okay.
So Tuesdays, council meeting.
Right.
Now it's bi-weekly. They sometimes have special meetings, so you could do every second and fourth Tuesday with you know, just that.
The understanding that
Yeah, but
if they have a special meeting, more than likely I'm on the agenda.
That part too.
Yeah.
It's third district commission. They're typically the first Wednesday of each month, so you can get the other 3 Wednesdays
Okay.
for your dates. Zoning board, they're the third Monday, so you get the first 2 Mondays and the last Monday of each month if y'all want Mondays. And I think Thursdays are smack dab open because Charter Commission ended. There's nothing on Thursdays right now, so that's good. Fridays, cool.
I would like Thursdays too because I was here till like 10:30 last night, and I'm like Wednesday it makes it, you know, tough for me.
Thursday works for me.
Yeah.
Wednesdays work?
Thursdays work. Yeah.
No.
Second, third. What does anybody care?
No problem.
Okay.
Just pick one and walk away.
I can.
Not say to you,
Not the first Thursday, please.
second or third Thursday.
The other one's okay, it's cool.
Okay.
I ain't even got nothing.
Third Thursdays.
Third.
You handle it. Is it monthly or quarterly?
I was thinking bi-monthly for now. Yeah. And then if we need to, we can, you know, always call a special meeting. But if you have, so we'll send out a calendar with third Thursday bi-monthly.
And then we can always cancel.
Like we can always cancel.
Okay.
Polling. Was that what that was? Okay. Alrighty, we got the meeting scheduled. And it looks like the last part of the agenda is adjournment.
Unless anybody has anything for the good of the order.
Because Mary took the details out.
Yeah, well now because we have it filmed, we can really do detail. And like I said, the first meeting, I want to offer apologies. It was, you know, haphazard. And getting it together, and then we take some of it and something, and so I apologize, and I promise we'll be more professional going forward.
Okay. Anybody would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion by Dr. Hannon, second by Levante. Alrighty, roll call. That's me. Joy.
Yes.
Levante.
Yes.
I go yes. Ken.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Dr. Hannon.
Yes.
6 yeas.
Well, I want to thank all of you for your time and commitment, and again, we'll get you some additional information, and I'll start getting information to you sooner. We had some back and forth, you know, again, when I'm going back and forth between the county and then their corporate council mark this up, and then our council mark this up, and the commissioners are saying, we want you to meet, because we would meet before them. They gave me a pass. So we'll be, you know, we will be more efficient and in getting you stuff in advance, so we can happen. Okay. Thank you.